Thank you very much, and it's really an honor to be here as an international speaker at this conference. It's really an honor for me. So I've already been introduced, but I would like to know from you how many of you are communications officers. Please, yes. Raise your hand, yes, as I imagined. And I would like to know also if in your universities or in the organizations where you work, if there is a specific team for science communication or not, or if you, no. Okay, so I think at the EUI we faced similar challenges, and hopefully what I will tell you will be useful to you. So, I mean, you don't need to read the slides of the presentation, but this will be more of an interaction between me and you. But before going to the core of the presentation, the research communication or science communication, at the EUI, we use the terminology research communications, but basically you can always use science communication. So every time you see research communications in this presentation, it means basically science communication. And another practical thing, so the full name of my organization is the European University Institute, but I will refer to it with its acronym EUI to make it short. So before going to the core of the presentation, I want to briefly present to you what the EUI is, because we are a bit of a special university, a special institution. At the same time, we are both an intergovernmental organization made up of now 23 member states. We were established in the 70s, in 1972, by the 6 founding member states of the European communities, because the founding members wanted a research center of excellence for the European Union, and they decided to create the EUI. Now the EUI has 23 member states, but I mean, we are an intergovernmental organization, but we are also a university, and more specifically, a research university for doctoral and postdoctoral studies. So this is a peculiarity of the EUI. We do not have undergraduate students. We only have doctoral students. These are the core groups at the EUI, postdoctoral. However, in the last few years, we also started having some master programs. So we do have some master students, but no undergraduates. So this is important for you to know. And we have 4 very important PhD programs. We are a research university, therefore, focused on social sciences and humanities. So we are a very specific, let's say, research university, and we are specialized only in some fields. So as you can see, these are the units, the academic units, the departments of the EUI, the Department of Economics, Department of History, Department of Law, Political and Social Sciences, and the 4 thematic departments, they offer these prestigious PhD programs every year. And we also have the Robert Schuman Center for Advanced Studies, where they have a lot of projects and also involved in research projects. It's a very important department of the EUI. The Max Weber Program for Postdoctoral Studies, which is the leading program for postdoctoral studies in social sciences and humanities in Europe. So we have postdoc also fellows at the EUI, and the Florence School of Transnational Governance, which is also another important department where they also have a master program in transnational governance. So we are a university. We are very much a research university. However, back in the past, we were not really using the potential of all the research which is done at the EUI, and we were not really communicating a lot about the research. This is really something that started 2 years ago, basically, with a pilot project to develop research communication, science communication at the EUI, because we wanted, of course, to really enhance our profile as a research university. We are very much well known in the academic field, but obviously we want to go much broader than only the academic field. We want to reach a much wider audience, and we want to disseminate all the important research which is done at the Institute, and also the results of the projects, because the Institute, the European Institute, is involved in a lot of projects. A lot of them receive funding from the European Union, and the findings of these projects are extremely important. So we really want, as a communication service, to disseminate all of this to a broader audience. However, and also, why is this important? Not only to raise the profile of our university, which is, of course, one of our objectives, but we want really to reach a broader public, also to contribute somehow to one of the challenges of communication nowadays. We live in an era which is very much dominated by misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and I mean, we see it in the social media. And we believe that as a university, and more importantly, as a research university, we have a mission to try to, with what we can, to fight all this misinformation and fake news with our news, which are very much based on solid research findings. So we really see our, let's say, our work as part of a broader mission to really try to convey knowledge which is based on the research, and to fight what is not true, what is fake. Of course, we have limited resources, so we cannot really, like fight this big challenge on our own. But we do what we can really to contribute to that. And before telling you how we set up this science communication, research communication team, I just want to give you some practical examples so that you basically see from the start what we do. I hope it's probably not very visible in the back, but these are a few examples, only the image and the title of some of our research stories. Research news, we call them research news. And we have news covering, of course, all of the departments of the Institute, and featuring different types of academics in the Institute, because as you can imagine, we have professors. We even have some really like star professors, very famous all over Europe in their disciplines. But we do not want only to feature them in our communication, because they are already well known. So we interview all types of professors, also younger ones, assistant professors. We regularly interview fellows who are at the EUI, sometimes for a shorter period, for some exchange periods. So we have some visiting fellows doing research at the EUI, and we really try to also involve them in our research news and research storytelling. And obviously, a lot of our efforts also are to showcase the work of the PhD researchers. The doctoral researchers at the EUI are really the core of the Institute, these young researchers coming from all over Europe. And we regularly interview the researchers and really put them in the spotlight in the research news. We try to feature different topics that can be of interest, as I say, to a wide audience. As you can see in these slides, we have some topics which are very much political science topic. The left, how the left is influencing the right on progressive family policy. This is a researcher from the political science department. But we also have hotter climate, frozen fertility, how climate anxiety is basically reducing like the fertility in Europe because couples decide not to have children because they are worried about the future. So we have topics like covering climate change, covering digitalization, artificial intelligence. We really try to really address topics which can be of interest, like in the nowadays world, and the challenges that we face nowadays are very much reflected in our news. But we also have some topics that can be of interest really to a very wide public. And actually, this is a Polish researcher who was with us for 3 months. Magdalena Zatkowska on how couples cope when children leave the family home. So she's doing research on what happens in a couple when the children go out, like go to university, and the couple is suddenly alone at home. And there is a very interesting book behind this news. So we really explore a huge variety of topics in our research storytelling. And this is just a few examples, or the last one, how can we spark children's curiosity in learning? Of course, this is a topic that can have, a huge number of recipients. I mean, all like teachers in all kinds of schools can be interested in such a story. And I will not really follow too much the slide, but I will just tell you. So basically what happened at the Institute, we had this really huge number of research topics, like a huge potential, but we didn't have resources for doing research storytelling. And actually it was even more complex because science communication was not really present in the past in the strategy of the Institute. So the communication that the European Institute in the past was doing, it was very much focused on events, like reporting after events, because of course the Institute organizing a lot of events with international partners. We still do this, and of course we still communicate on this. But in the past, this was really the main focus: institutional news, news about events, news about new partnerships, and very little research communication. Every now and then, one colleague was interviewing someone and producing a research news, but this was very sporadic, and there was not a strategy behind. And that's why my team leader decided that in order for this to function, we needed to build something more structural, more like we needed to embed research communication in the strategy of the Institute in terms of communication. So she launched in 2003, in 2023, so 2 years ago. Exactly 2 years ago, she launched this pilot project, how to develop a systematic approach to research communication at the EUI. At that time, she was basically the only one, let's say, working on this project. There was no team, and as you can imagine, the academics are super busy because they are doing their research, they are supervising all the doctoral candidates, they are involved in international events all over. So they have very little time, the academics, for communication. And most of them didn't really see let's say, this as an important part of the work. So we also needed to change the mentality of the academics. This is work in progress, of course. I mean, it cannot be done overnight. So these were the challenges. There was no team, and the academics were very busy. So what my team leader did was, first of all, to try to involve a few professors, very few, basically one per department, And because there is always somebody who understands the potential of communication, the importance of communicating research. So the whole project started with a few ambassadors or champions of communication who are professors really with an interest in communication. And we started to to do news based on their research. And then what happened is that we produced this news, we published the news on the website, and then the others started saying, this professor is featured, I also want to be featured, or like, this news is interesting, maybe you can promote also my research. So little by little, when they started to see the production of the news, some other academics came to us and said, I want to be interviewed. This worked very well with the PhD researchers. I started, for example, to give you a practical example, I started to interview researchers after they did an experience of field work abroad, because most of our doctoral researchers, they go somewhere at one point to do field work. And then they come back and they have all the results of the field work. And then I started interviewing them, and they were telling me, I did field work in Lebanon, I did field work in Tunisia, these are my findings. And I wrote news out of these experiences. And as soon as I published some of these news, other researchers said, I want to also to be interviewed. So this, maybe it will work also for you. It's something that it's working for us, and people see what we produce, and they come to us. Of course, as I said, we also have the strength that we are covering as an institute topics which can really be of interest to a very broad public. And this is really one of the assets of the university. And our team is very small, but is full of enthusiastic people. And I'm very proud to be the first, let's say, person hired as a research communication officer in the team 1 year and a half ago. So actually, I've already said most of the things. So we started with the pilot project. And then we started building a team. I was hired. Yeah, sorry. So now we have the team leader, me, another communications officer. So we are 3, let's say, full-time people. We are really fighting hard to have a 4th person. We hope this is going to work, but as we all know, it's not easy. Like the other departments also need resources. So, but at the moment, yes, we are a team leader plus 2 research communications officer, and we have a trainee. We always have excellent trainees who are really involved in our work on news and social media. So they are a big help. So at the beginning, my team leader, when she started the pilot project, she basically went to the top leadership to have the agreement on the pilot project. And of course, the previous president said, this is a great idea. We are a research university, so of course we are in favor of doing research communication. But let's say we didn't really have, again, the resources. And it was more an endorsement in the past, in words. But still, there was nothing in writing. But what really changed very much the picture was that last year we had a change of presidency. Because our presidents are with us only for a limited number of years. And President Patricia Nance started her mandate as EUI president in March last year. And first of all, she's the first woman to be president of the institute, so we are very proud of that. She's a German academic, really a top-level academic, and she has expertise and also she understands the power of communication, because she was also trained as a journalist in the past, in addition of being a top-level academic. So I think we were very lucky with this choice, because when she started her mandate, it was clear that research communication and science communication would become really a priority. So before, we were starting to follow this path of investing in science communication, and the previous president was in favor, but it was really with the new presidency that the whole project was given a huge boost, because what happened, she started a process of presenting a new vision and a new strategy for the European University Institute for the future years. And in this process, in this project, the new vision for the EUI, communicating research becomes one of the pillars. So one of the pillars of the new vision of President Nance is communicating EUI's work effectively beyond the confines of academia. This is really the turning point, because now we have a strong endorsement from the top, from the presidency, and this is really in writing, in the vision document for the future of the EUI. So now we are really sure that science communication is the priority for communication at the EUI. Following this change of leadership, the whole communication service actually was restructured. So it was very interesting for me, because I was still relatively new in the service, and I experienced this reorganization of the communication service. And we are now divided in 3 teams: research communications, so as I said, this small team that I presented to you, and then there is still a team for institutional communication, a small team, because of course we have a lot of initiatives with the presidents, a lot of events, so we still do institutional communication. And we have a small marketing team, because also investing in marketing. Also, in addition to our master programs and the PhD programs, we have some executive training courses, and these programs we want really to basically promote them. So the whole sector is in a phase of reorganization, the whole communication sector, but we know that from now on we have in communication a research-centric approach, and research will be at the heart of the EUI communication. This is crystal clear, and it's thanks to this big push from the management. So thank you for your remark, because indeed one of my messages and tips for you is really that you can have a small team of enthusiasts, a small team of committed people, but if there is not really a strong endorsement from the top management, then you risk to basically, to fight a battle which is difficult to win. Yes?
I'm curious, how do you guys work together with those 3 teams? I mean, each of them has a leader, and
yes.
They meet and they discuss common issues, or do you all meet together and work?
No, basically we have in every team as a team leader. So there is a research communication team leader, an institutional communication team leader, and a marketing team leader. On top of them, we have a director for communications. So there is a director for communication, and then below, each team is made of a few people. It can be 2, 3, or 4 people. Occasionally, we meet all of us, but on special occasions, we have a few times per year a meeting of all the communicators at the EUI. But in normal times, the team leaders meet every week with the director, so they basically give the directions. There are weekly meetings of the 3 team leaders with the director, and then in special occasion, then all of the teams meet. And this seems to work quite well. There are some overlaps, of course, and also some of the things we do. For example, when I produce research news, after I interview the researchers, let's say my main objective is to disseminate the content of the research done by the researcher, but at the same time, what I do is also a bit of a marketing, let's say, tool, because we promote all the work of these researchers, and this should attract other young people to our institute, because they start seeing this news and they start seeing, these researchers at the European University Institute, they do research on very cool topics, and they do experience of field work abroad, and a lot of them publish in important newspapers. So we try also to use, to build synergies, especially between research communication and marketing. And we work very closely together. We are also sitting basically together with the colleagues, so we really have a lot of informal exchanges, but the three team leaders meet regularly.
I understand that most of the work you are doing is in-house, right? So it's done
Yes.
by you. You're not outsourcing things like social media or
No.
design.
No, exactly. We also have a very small creative team, in-house. So we have a graphic designers, and we recently we hired a video maker, a multimedia officer video maker. This was, in my opinion, again, a major point, a major addition to the team. Because I still remember when I started 1.5 years ago, I remember meeting the heads of departments, the Department of Law, Economics, Political Science, and History. Me and my team leader with the director, we met the departments, and all the departments were asking us to develop videos. They really wanted video content. At the time, we didn't even have a video maker, so we said, be patient, because we are trying to hire a video maker. It took us quite some time, but we finally managed, and in October last year, we hired a video maker, and this has been really a major, I would say, another major point in the development of our team. But we do everything at the moment in-house with our graphic designers, with our video maker, and actually this very much links, for example, we developed a little, let's say, visual identity for research communication. So all our news now basically have a little folded corner. And this was an idea developed by one of our graphic designers, because she said, here at the EUI, researchers, they study a lot, they read a lot, and when you read, very often you fold, the little corner, maybe we shouldn't, but okay, we do this a lot. So we, and then she started with this idea of the little folded corner, and she developed this idea in visually. I mean, it's a simple element, but this helps us now to immediately visualize the news that we produce. Because the EUI produces other news which are not focused on research, and this is an element of our new visual identity. Maybe
you have like one social media and you divide it into different topics?
We have a very good question. So we have channels for the EUI on social media. This slide is important, but it's a bit time-consuming, so I will first show you, the examples. So social media, yes, we have EUI channels on social media, and the departments, they sometimes have, for example, their profile on Blue Sky or LinkedIn. However, we are very much in favor of, let's say, like developing one single voice for the EUI.
Same.
Exactly. So we basically, ideally, we would like, it's not because we want to centralize everything and to control everything, but we want to develop one voice for the Institute. So we try to bring most of the content from the EUI channels. Absolutely.
Do you have a special identification for research, you said?
Yes, with the corner.
Does it goes in harmony with what is identification of the institution, or it is separate, something you produce only for your own? Because we have this policy of visual identity.
The visual identity. So the visual identity for research, the little folded corner, it's something specific to our news, but still it fits in the visual identity of the institute. Absolutely, because we have a visual identity for the institute. For example, you will see at the EUI, in all our material, we use the arches. You know, the use of the arches is in our visual identity. So this research communication identity, of course, builds on the visual identity of the institute, but it has this additional element so that we are a little bit special somehow. I will first, before talking about how do we identify content, I will first show you the three series, the three formats that we developed. So as I said, a big point in the development of the team was when we hired a video maker last autumn, because this is the moment in which we were finally able to produce videos. Videos were very much requested by our professors and heads of departments. And we decided that instead of creating content a bit randomly, like, for example, producing an interview, you know, following a research paper, producing an interview after the fieldwork of the researchers, we wanted also to create some formats to give a little bit of a structure to what we do. And with the video maker, we sit together, we did a brainstorming together, and we finally developed three different series for EUI research. Each series has a short name, an acronym, an hashtag. So the first series is called EUI Upfront, and all of the series for research communication, they exist both in video format and in written format. So we have video content, EUI Upfront, but also written content, and the same for the other series. So what are the three series and why we came up with the series? As I said, we wanted to give some structure to our work, and we decided to launch this series. The first one, the Upfront, what we do in the Upfront, we take two professors. Usually this series is more really for professors, for top professors.
Different backgrounds?
Sorry? Yes, exactly. So the idea is to choose two professors coming from two different backgrounds, to put them together in a very informal setting. It can be at the cafeteria of the institute. It can be at the library garden. We have a beautiful library with garden. It can be really wherever. Informal setting, two professors from two different disciplines discussing a hot topic, really like a big issue. And it's really a conversation between them. So like we are, of course, behind. There is our video maker filming, and we do some preparation work with them. We explain the concept. But when we film, it's basically them discussing. And the first one, we had the perfect occasion to do an upfront video on a hot topic, because the first video was right after the results of the presidential elections in the US. So we did an upfront on that. And the second video is a discussion from two top, let's say, professors on the strength and the challenges of the Draghi report, so competitiveness in Europe. And actually, I invite you, of course, to watch these videos. In the first video, they were more like agreeing between them, like the two professors in the US election video. But in the second one, is really like a very lively and spicy discussion. So, and this format seems to work quite well with different types of, let's say, of target audiences, because it's really like listening to really a conversation between two academics analyzing the hot topic from their perspective discipline. We can have also two professors from the same department, but ideally we want to have two professors from two different departments. But this is flexible, and we can have both ways. And I invite you to.
Are they interested in, motivated to go to this format and to discuss, Professor Saimi?
Yeah, we were wondering, like, will they say yes? Because we really, like, for example, this man, Professor Eric Jones, is the director of the Robert Schuman Center, so he's one of the leading figures at the EUI. This lady is also an important professor. In this video, Simon Hicks is one of our top political scientists, and this other professor, Kevin Munger, comes from the US and is also very much of an expert in the use of digital media in politics. So these are all top figures. And they replied very positively, and they really played the game perfectly. I was really surprised. I assisted to both of their shootings, and it's like they knew how to do this. I mean, it went very smoothly. We didn't have to, to restart from scratch. And to be honest, I could have stayed and listened to them like for hours because it was really engaging. So it really seems that they are really willing to play the game, and they are also now, of course, interesting in a while to see how these videos perform on social media, because we upload the videos on our YouTube channel, and of course we disseminate them widely on social media. So this is our first series, and it seems to be a very successful one. The second series, this is a more standard, let's say, interview series. It's called EUI Research. And this is really an interview to an academic. It's a studio interview. So one of the communications colleagues interviewing it can be a professor, it can be a fellow. We also feature, as I said, visiting fellows, research fellows. And yeah, this is a totally different format. Interviews, 4 questions, 4 answers, and the core of the interview is the research. So it's a totally different concept. It exists in video and also in writing. I do a lot of the written EUI research news, and in writing we have again news with questions and answers on the research topic. Very often we do this EUI research interviews when the scholar published something important, so there is a new publication out, and we interview the person on the content of the article, the publication. So this is EUI research. These are some examples of EUI research in writing. All kinds of topics can be covered. For example, I did this 2 ones. Immigration, how old immigrants in one country see new immigrants, and there is a research study behind how does the religiosity of parents affect their children, again with research behind. And the colleague of mine did the one in between with interviewing a Polish scholar. We also have quite a good number of academics from Poland, and some of them visiting our institute. And the last series is a very interesting one. It's called My EUI Research. And this is the series that we use really to put researchers in the spotlight. So our idea is to use different series for different types of academics. Up front, it's really for the big professors, for like established academics. EUI Research is for fellows, like with or assistant professors, for academics like mid-career academics, and this series is really for the doctoral researchers, so for the young group, which is actually the core group at the EUI, because we have really hundreds of doctoral researchers, and we decided to dedicate one of our research series specifically to them. And I find this series particularly interesting because when we do it in video, I hope you will watch these videos later on. When we do it in video, we try to do what we call a mini documentary about the researcher. So you have the researcher discussing the topic of the research, because of course the core of the video is again the research. But at the same time, we have, we shoot the researcher like in a kind of experiential, we call it experiential setting. So we want to show part of the experience of being a PhD researchers at the EUI. So we don't want the researcher just to tell us, I'm doing research on immigration, but we want to show like an experience at the EUI, and the experience can be, for example, being part of the EUI football club, or it can be like playing a sport, or presenting in one of the events at the EUI. So we always try to use an element of experience, and the final videos really contain this experiential part, and I think they are quite nice videos. The last one that was released last week is a French researcher, Juliette Sartre, who is doing a research on how immigrants sometimes can influence the host countries. We always tend to believe that the host society influences immigrants, but sometimes it's the other way around. And she was filmed also while playing soccer, because we have all kinds of sport tournaments at the EUI, and a lot of the researchers are involved. Or another researcher who is in the history department and is doing research on how sound and noise is perceived in history, a very specific topic, so this can be maybe more of a niche topic. And he was filmed while playing piano, because he's also a piano player. So these videos are research-focused, but they include these experiential elements which are quite interesting. Of course, the element of the experience is different when you have a written content, because the My EUI Research written stories, they cannot be so experiential as the video ones, but we still try to insert an element of an experience. As I said, I interview very often researchers after they do an experience of fieldwork, and the fieldwork is an experience that they do at the EUI. So in the news that I publish, I ask about the research funding, and I ask how does the experience of fieldwork contributes to the research. Or, for example, this news item was made following an interview with a researcher who is now visiting a university in the US. So she's spending some time in the US, and she also explained how being in the US changed their perspective on the research topic. So we still try to insert this element of the research plus an experience even when we write. And I think this is working quite well. I'm sure about it, because now more researchers recognize this series, and they write to us or saying that they want to be interviewed. Or very often when I interview one researcher, then the researcher tells me, but you can also interview my colleague who is doing research on very cool topics. So this is spreading on the EUI campus, and more people come to us. Of course, all of this news, when we produce them, the news, the videos, everything we produce, they are very much in the spotlight on the EUI website. We revamped the website recently, and there is a section called Featured. And in the feature section, we only insert research news. So this is really the top section of the website, the most visible section, and in there, we only have research news and the other type of news, because as I said, we still produce institutional news. We still need to, for example, produce a news when there is an appointment, a new professor, a new head. We produce news, but they are not in this prominent position. This is only for research stories and for research news. What we also do, of course, is to use these videos, these research news in our research newsletter. If you don't receive it, I invite you to sign up if you are interested to seeing what we produce. This is an evolution of the previous newsletter of the EUI, which was called EUI Highlights, and which had some research content, but also a lot of institutional news. Now, the newsletter of the EUI is really a research-based newsletter. This was, again, another clear message from the top. We want to have a newsletter that features research.
Another newsletter about life at the university, about the different events?
So this is the external newsletter, which is sent to around 22,000 people, and it's only about research. We still produce an internal newsletter every week.
What's going on the campus?
And this is more like about the activities on campus. For example, maybe next week they can say, Lucia Giannini presented at this conference in Poland. So we have an internal newsletter about institutional news, activities, events that we do, but the external newsletter is a research one, and it only contains very few, maximum 3 news at the bottom, which are not so much research, but basically, like, if possible, they can also contain a research element. But the core of the newsletter is really research.
Is it monthly?
It's monthly, yeah.
How many are working on the newsletter?
It's basically us, so the same team that I produced, yes. So each one of us is kind of becoming specialized in certain things. So, for example, I'm the backup for the newsletter. It's not my main responsibility, but I will show you. In addition, we all do research news, all of us, research stories and storytelling. We work very closely with the video maker, of course, for the videos, because the video maker basically is an expert on videos, but we still, for example, need an officer who basically, develops the questions to ask to the academics. So we work in close cooperation with the video maker, and this we do all of us. And then each member is getting specialized on certain topics, because we very much believe in trying to specialize the team and not having everyone doing everything. So, for example, I'm the backup for the research. If the other person is absent, then I intervene, and we send out.
24/7, huh?
We work a lot, indeed, because we work a lot also because we, at the beginning of this project, we wanted to somehow to build a presence for our team. Because, if you produce one research news every 3 months, then nobody will basically...
That was my question. How often can you publish an article about it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good question, because you cannot produce too few articles, otherwise basically it's like you don't really exist. But at the same time, all these articles, news that we produce, they really demand a lot of work. First of all, also because I will go a bit later, because we need to find the content.
Yeah, because you said that you interview those people.
Yeah,
so
and also, exactly. So, and then, first of all, I need to have an idea because, like, okay, we have hundreds of academics. We cannot interview all of them. And they are very busy, so some of them contact us and say, I'm about to publish an article, do you want to interview me? But to be honest with you, this is still a minority. A minority of people contact us. Most of the time, it's us having to really find ideas. And exactly, and maybe I can actually go back because I was a bit worried this would take too much. But this is a key challenge for this research communication project. Very few professors write to us. Some they do. Even last year, a head of department wrote to us and say, can I be interviewed because I'm about to publish this important study? Great. Most of the time, we need to really dig into this sea of content and find content for interviews, for videos, and we really have hundreds of potential people to interview, and we are two officers, one team leader, so we don't have the... So to go back to your question, we want to produce content regularly, not occasionally. We said our team needs to produce content regularly. At the same time, we cannot produce too much because all of this requires really a long process. So what we aim at the moment is to produce two content per department per month. And I think this is something feasible. At the beginning, we tried to do more, but then we really thought, like, okay, it's impossible because every news, every video really demands a lot of work. I think
So you have 7 departments, right?
Yes. But the research, the Robert Schuman Center, they have a few communications officers themselves. They are basically in the process of being integrated in the whole new communication service. But we as a team, we are in charge of the 4 academic departments, law, history, economics and political science, plus the Max Weber program. So let's say we have 5 departments with hundreds of fellows, professors, and researchers. What we aim to do is ideally 2 content per department per month. If it's 1, fine, but at least 1 per month minimum, ideally 2. And this is something, I think, which is possible because, as I said, we need to have a regular production. Otherwise, people will not really see the results of the work, and they will not come. So, what do we do when we need content and nobody is writing to us to promote the content? We search for content ourselves in different ways. I don't know, like if you do something similar, or if this is can inspire you. We have at the EUI a repository called Cadmus, where in theory, I say in theory because this is a big challenge, in theory, everything new produced in terms of research should be uploaded there. So in theory, that's easy. Then I go to our research repository, I see what's new. There is a new research article by the Department of History. There is a new book by the Department of Law. And I could contact the author and schedule an interview. The challenge is that not everyone uploads on our repository, or they might do it, but much later. And we of course, want fresh content. I mean, I don't want to advertise a book that was published 2 years ago. So it is a first method for us to search for content, our online repository. But it's not enough. We realized very early it's not enough because some of the academics, they are too busy, they forget, they don't put their papers on there. So it's a starting point. Then what we do, if this doesn't work, at least what I do, on the website of the EUI, there is a full section called EUI People. And you find all of us in EUI People. So I start looking at the profiles of the researchers, the professors, because on those pages you have, for example, if you are a researcher, then you have the research topic, the title of the thesis, and this gives me already an idea, okay, this person is doing research on like the groups which are against climate policies. Fine, interesting. So I go to this section and I try to really understand from the profile of the person if this person can be an interesting match for my interviews. This is something else that I do. If this doesn't work, because I mean also there are cases in which this doesn't work, then I monitor the projects in which the institute is involved, because as an institute, we are involved in different projects, and some of them have a research element, and they produce interesting research findings. And of course, it's also important to disseminate the results of these research projects. So we can have some news that are linked to research projects. Not very frequent, but we can, I mean, we use this methodology also of trying to find through the projects ideas for research storytelling. We also look carefully at the events that are organized every week at the European University Institute, because every week there are different events, and in some of them there can be more of a research element. So among the whole events which we have every week, we try to see which are the events in which there is a potential for research storytelling, and then we interview the speakers, and we write news following those interviews. Also, something I forgot to say, but which is very important, when the project, the research communication project was born, because the team is small, we set up a mechanism called interdepartmental working group. So we have a person in each department who is our liaison for communication. The person is not a communication officer. Very often he or she is an administrative officer, but with an interest in communication. Some of them have also a bit of a background in communication. And they basically try to understand what happens every month in their departments that can be of interest for research communications. And then we meet with this liaison group once a month to basically discuss ideas for, sometimes they don't bring, let's say, ideas that can be used for research communication, but they might bring ideas that are useful also for the institutional communications team. So, I mean, it's a mechanism that can feed research communication, but also institutional communication. But it happened to me. I give you a practical example. Last year, I worked a lot with the Department of Political and Social Sciences. And, I mean, all of our liaison colleagues are excellent. And the liaison colleague in that department very often would tell me, like, you could interview this researcher because he's really doing research on a very hot topic. Or like, there is an event and maybe you can schedule a session with one of the speakers. So, of course, every person working in a department is in much closer contact with the department than I am. So this group functions as a mechanism to identify content, but our objective as a team, even if we are 2 and 3 people only, is to try to become closer and closer, to be closer and closer with the departments so that we can identify ourselves like what's really happening in the department. It's a bit of an ambitious, let's say, objective. So in the meantime, we use all of these methodologies, and we try also to network with the academic community, because as I said, when I interview someone, very often the person, or I ask like, would you be able to suggest other people like you that I could interview? So we use all of these different methodologies to identify content, because to be honest with you, content identification was and is still one of the key challenges of our work. And
Popularisation policy looks like. Do you write texts, or the scientists write texts for your content?
so when I interview someone, usually it's an interview like in one of the meeting rooms somewhere at the EUI. I record the interview, and then I produce a first draft of the news item, of the research news, that is checked by my team leader, who's native English speaker and a previous journalist, so she really has the journalistic touch. And then I share the news with the academic, because of course we want to have the final approval of the person before we publish it online. Other times we do, let's say, interviews in writing. And because, for example, the person is abroad, the person is not available for a real interview, and then we do everything in writing, so they produce themselves the replies to the question, and then we edit, and we always have a final agreement on the news before it goes online. I know we need to wrap up, but just very briefly to show you also social media. We use LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Instagram. We don't use X anymore. We decided to disengage from X in December. And we moved to Blue Sky. LinkedIn works very well for the promotion of our research content, which I think is maybe obvious because it's more of a professional social network. But what is interesting for me is that Instagram is working quite well for us for the promotion of research content. Our Instagram account is performing well. We use static posts, we use carousels on Instagram, and it's giving good results, especially when we use the image of the person together with a quote. This is really what is really working very well, having a human element with a quote. And also, what we do also often, using editorial photos is also because we don't want to use always, the photo of the person. So we are trying to mix and to use both people's photo and editorial photos. And these two formats work well. So also the editorial photo with the title and the people's photo with a quote, or just the photo of the person. So we are really experimenting with social media, and in a while we will be able to understand what works well. But our Instagram account is a bit of a surprise, but in addition to LinkedIn, Instagram is working quite well. Blue Sky, we hope, we have good hopes, but we need to see because we are still new on Blue Sky, so we don't have enough data to. And Facebook, I'm afraid our Facebook page is not going very well for the promotion of research content. I think this is linked more to a general trend of people moving away from Facebook to other social media. We don't have an account of TikTok on TikTok. There are some restrictions at the moment, so I don't know. I don't think at the moment we can use this media. But LinkedIn and Instagram are performing quite well, and we are spreading our research news very much on the social media. And in a while, I will be able to tell you if this is successful. But we have good hopes. I think we need to close, right? Yeah, we are ready. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.